Call me Dominic Toretto, because for family I will go to world's end. My maternal family is known for having outbursts of anger, the kind that blurs vision and turns everything red. No one in my family embodied these qualities more infamously than my great-grandmother Maddie. Maddie was violent with her words and her fists as well. Maddie was married to my great-grandfather, a magistrate of the Supreme Court of Justice of my country and, according to my father, a good man and highly respected by all. But the moment that he walked through the door of the house, his authority ended and my great-grandmother's tyrannical rule began. My great-grandparents had a son named Joe. Joe was the second son and the most rebellious of them all, the one who could not stand Maddie's mistreatment, and he let her know it all the time. He was the only one who stood up to her and consequently the one who suffered the most. It was when Joe turned 15 that he decided never again to let himself be mistreated by her. And of course Maddie had something to say about it. One night he decided to completely disobey his curfew, and this upset her deeply. Years before, Maddie would have responded with lashes and screaming, but since my uncle was already 15, he was taller and stronger than his mother, she had to resort to an alternative tactic. She decided to call a policeman to the house. And what were her instructions to the policeman? To lay the smackdown on my uncle like it was Monday Night Raw. That was the last day my great-uncle lived at his parents' house. But where I come from, family is the most important thing, impossible to escape. 4 years later, my great-grandparents had moved to their new house in another part of town. Next to them lived a different family. The parents were normal people, but the son Reuben was another story. Reuben was about 25 years old. Reuben did not study, nor did he work or help with household chores. Reuben spent all his time and energy on two things: growing muscle mass until he looked like Arnold, and insulting my grandparents every time he saw them walking down the street. My dad couldn't tell me why. What he did tell me was that Reuben's aggressiveness towards my great-grandparents was so extreme that he wouldn't even let them walk on his side of the sidewalk, claiming it was his. My great-grandparents never did anything about it as they were rather old, and for some mysterious reason, they never told anyone what was going on with Reuben either. This is where Joe comes in again. His relationship with his mother was strained and conflicted, which did not stop him from visiting them every so often to see his father and his 3 siblings. That day my great-grandparents were returning home, and of course Reuben shouts and insults them as they open the door to their house. What he didn't count on was that Joe was arriving at the same moment and heard everything. The world went first black and then red. Like a worthy son of Maddie, Joe exploded. He lunged at Reuben 3 times. All 3 times, with a blow to the dome, Reuben knocked him effortlessly to the ground. Faced with such a beast, anyone else would have abandoned the fight. Joe did not. Joe was used to the pain, the blood and the bruises that remained weeks later. Joe had lost his fear of confrontation years ago. Joe stood up one last time, under Reuben's insults and taunts, and charged him. I don't know how he did it, perhaps Reuben had let his guard down, but he managed to land a kick on his opponent's shin. Reuben did not fall to the ground completely, but he was destabilized. Reuben did not know it, but he had already lost. My great-uncle climbed on his back, as if riding a mad bull at a fair, grabbed him by the noggin and rammed him repeatedly against the pavement. The battered face, the teeth scattered on the ground were not enough for Joe. What he did next was to grab Reuben by the hair and drag him up and down the street, twice, until my older great-uncle stopped him. The story ends with Reuben in the hospital, his face unrecognizable, and my uncle disappearing for a week to avoid any kind of retaliation. Reuben tried to retaliate the next time he saw Joe. Joe kicked his butt again.